Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Life Stories. My name is Trent, and as usual, hope you guys are all doing great. Today, we got some stories coming from Reddit/entitledparents. So, without further ado, let's see where the entitlement is coming from today. Our first story is titled, EK thinks he gets to brutalize children because he can beat them in a fight. Our cast, EM, entitled Mom, GB, entitled Crotch Goblin, W, the instructor, Murtaugh, the first cop to show up, this wasn't his actual name, and me, Bruce Lee's #1 fan/worshipper. For backstory, for those who haven't read my last post, I do crazy ninja stuff. Translation, I do martial arts. I've always been very gifted with this kind of stuff because I'm very well built and my mind moves way faster than is probably good for it. At the time that this story takes place, I'd been doing Taekwondo and Muay Thai for about 5 to 6 years and Eskrima for about 5 months. I was also one of the highest ranked, if not the highest ranked, students in this specific school. So, I was doing my crazy ninja stuff in classes one day, and it was Eskrima day, my personal favorite. If you don't know what Eskrima is, the gist of it is you hit each other with sticks. We happened to have a new student, EGB, who had just moved here from a different town, where he also did Eskrima and other crazy ninja stuff. So, we get started with the class. First, we did our pre-class warm-up conditioning stuff, which ECG complained about the entire time. And then, we learned some fun new stuff after that. Our instructor tells us to split into pairs and practice. However, we had an odd number of students that day, so I got to practice with him, because I was the highest ranked student there. As you would expect, EM gets pretty butthurt about this because she thinks her little angel, I'd like to add he was like 15 or 16 I think, is better than me and should, therefore, get to practice with the teacher. But she calms down pretty quickly after he tells her some BS about how they like to have more experienced students practice with the instructor. Anyway, we all continue practicing for a while when someone walks in and rings the bell at the front desk. W went up to help this person and brought me with him, since I was going to be working there soon, and he wanted me to get some experience and knowledge of how they operate and stuff. It was just some guy who was thinking about putting his son in martial arts classes, and wanted to know a bit about the school. So, at this point, W and I are talking to this customer and paying attention to him, not watching the other students. I feel it's important to mention that our school will allow 2 students to challenge each other to a fight. There are some rules to how these challenges are issued and carried out. The #1 most important, must be followed no matter what rule, is that a fight can only occur under the supervision of an instructor or a student appointed by the present instructor. So, while W and I were talking to this guy, I hear a pained and whimpering, "Yield!" followed by the sound of a flurry of hits from someone with 2 Eskrima sticks. I look up to see ECG, who currently has his back to me, and W doesn't realize I can see him, looking at a slight downward angle and swinging his sticks like crazy. At this point, I sprint up there and grab ECG's shoulder, throwing him away from the other kid, and ask the other kid if he's alright. He wasn't seriously injured, he just had a few bruises in places he'd been hit. Then, I turned to ECG. "What the hell do you think you were doing?" I got bored, so I challenged him. I meant, why the hell did you keep hitting him? He yielded, which means you won. That's when you stop. Not to mention, you had no supervision from an instructor. Pfft, whatever, I'm the best student here, so I can do what I want. I started hatching a kinda devious plan. You think you're the best student here. Are you kidding me? I'm in a backwater podunk town like this. Of course I'm the best. Oh, you think you're so good? I challenge you to a fight. ECG scoffs and smirks a bit. I accept. This is gonna be easy as hell. So, we get set in the middle of the ring. He holds his Eskrima up and gets ready for W to start the fight. I do the same, but without my Eskrima. "Oh, are we just doing bare hands?" he says. "No, we're doing Eskrima." "So, where are your sticks?" "I'll just take yours once you're done with them." Yes, I 100% stole that line from Ra's al Ghul in Arrow. At this point, W tells us to fight, and just as I expected, ECG immediately tries to hit me as many times as he can, as fast as he can, by just wildly swinging the sticks. I avoided the first 3 swings with ease. When he took the 4th swing, I caught his wrist, stopping the swing completely. I followed that by grabbing the stick, letting go of his wrist, and side-kicking him in the ribs, pulling the stick out of his hand in the process. He recovers from the kick and realizes he's just lost one of his weapons. "You know, you can still yield before you embarrass yourself even more," I say. He responded by trying another flurry of hits with only one stick. I blocked and dodged the attacks for a while, letting him tire himself out until he eventually stopped and stepped back to catch his breath. "Is that all you got? Man, y'all city folk ain't really good for much, are you?" I have no problem with people from the city, I just figured it would be ironic since he called us a podunk backwater town. For some completely unknown reason that I couldn't possibly understand, ECG became enraged by this and went for another bombardment. However, I decided to stop wasting time and finish the fight. So when he took his first swing, I hit his wrist with the stick I'd already taken from him, causing him to drop the other stick. Now, normally, I don't think this would have caused him to drop it. However, because we were both swinging, it more or less doubled the amount of force being delivered to his hand, which I'm pretty sure is why it hurt enough for him to drop it. Either that, or he was just a wimp. Anyway, as the stick was falling, I caught it up. I followed this up with a strike to the outside of his front leg. This caused him to drop to his knee. After that, I stepped forward past him and hit him in the side of the neck with the other stick, causing him to fall the rest of the way down. You really should be more careful who you accept challenges from. This might be someone who's gone undefeated in fights for 5 years. Right as I finished that sentence, I leaned back against the wall next to a small picture of me. I did the same humble smile I had in the picture. Something I failed to mention is that if you ever get a medal, get in the top 3, at an official tournament, the school will allow you to hang your medals on a wall next to a picture of you. And my section of the wall has one of the higher numbers of medals, all of which are gold, not to brag or anything. So, I ask again, are you sure you want to keep going? I say to him. ECG, through gritted teeth, I yield. Now, this was where I thought the story ended. I had taught the kid a lesson in humility. Notice that I said, thought. Because if this story wasn't long enough already, there's more. Right at that moment, the mother-flipping police walked in. That's right, the EM that we all forgot about had called the police and told them I was assaulting her son. And this is my favorite part of the entire day, and also one of the funniest things I've seen to date. So, this kinda older-looking African-American cop, Murtagh, walks in. "Hello everyone, sorry to bother you. We got a call about an assault? I know I probably have the wrong address, but I figured I'd make sure. Did any of you call 911? EM chimes in. "Yes, that was me. That boy standing against the wall just started beating up my son for no reason. I demand that you arrest him for assault." "Ma'am, you do know you're in a martial arts studio, right?" "Yes, of course, I'm aware of that." "And you know that martial arts studios typically have fights occur in them?" "Well, no duh. God, why'd they send the most geriatric officer to deal with assault?" Murtagh just sat there for a second, as though he expected this woman to realize the problem with what she said. "Well, arrest him this instant." This is the part where fans of the movie Lethal Weapon will understand why I called the officer Murtagh. "I'm too old for this crap." And he just freaking walked out. He just left, no hesitation. He was just that done with this woman already. A few minutes later, a couple of other cops showed up and just made sure it wasn't actually assault. They concluded that I was innocent. A couple of weeks later, we ended up kicking ECG out of the school for just generally being a problem. We also warned the surrounding schools about him to be careful if he showed up. I don't know if he ever got accepted into another school again, but I wouldn't be upset if he didn't. And that's the end of that story. So before anybody gets upset over the fact that I said the Lethal Weapon quote wrong, let's remember that I gotta try to keep the channel PG. You know what the quote is if you know the movie. Also, watch Lethal Weapon. It's great. Anyways, we've got time for one more story. And the next story is titled, EM is the reason I don't like to be around my niece. Not sure how else to title this, but I want to vent a bit because I keep getting messages for play dates. My niece is almost 8. Every time she's come over, she shoves, pinches, hits, and takes things from my 2-year-old. EM says she's just acting out because she's having problems from her and my brother separating. They separated before she turned 1. Last time she was here, she pushed my daughter into her bedroom and shut the door on her, letting her freak out. EM said she was just trying to work out her feelings. I went on a walk around the sundial bridge, and my niece wanted to be carried the whole way. EM said no, I said no. So my niece threw herself on the ground and beat her head on the dirt. EM picks her up and carries her. 10 minutes into the walk, she has to pee, so we had to turn around and walk all the way across the bridge, again, so she could go. I just wanted to go on a nature walk. I walk into the gift store to get a drink and a stuffed animal for my daughter. All of a sudden, my niece is in the store. EM is sitting on the benches outside, not watching her. She asks for candy, stuffed animals, and toys, etc. I say no, your mom can get it for you. So my niece just starts opening crap up. I tell her to stop and that stuff has to be paid for. She continued. I opened the door and yelled at EM to come get her kid. She couldn't pay for anything she opened since she didn't bring money. I had to. Then they thought after all we were still going on a nature walk? No. Get in the car. I'm going home. She later takes my niece to the park, and when they get back, I ask if either of them had seen my daughter's kitty stuffed animals. They are her favorite, and she carries them everywhere. Niece took them to the park, without asking, and she left them there. They are handmade and cost me $20 each. EM was tired and didn't want to drive again. I had to drive to the park and look for them. I haven't spoken to them since they left. This was in December. I know it's because my niece isn't given consequences or structure, so it's not entirely her fault. But I just can't stand the way she acts, and I don't like her, and I don't want her around my daughter. And EM not doing anything and just shrugging off her behavior pisses me off. I keep getting texts asking when we can hang out next. Then, when we can have another play date, because cousins should be close. I still haven't responded. I don't know what to say in a nice way. I don't know, maybe tell her to take some parenting classes? Sounds like she could use it. Anyway, with that out of the way, we're out of time for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, I want to thank all of you so much for tuning into Life Stories. My name is Trent. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Reddit content coming your way, and I hope to see you guys soon.